Ladies and gentlemen, hockey fans across Western New York and the internet land, I should say. I'm going to start that again. That was terrible.
Yeah,
I like to do that a lot. I like to just mess up and sound horrible.
we're only amateurs.
Exactly. The outtakes are better than the podcast usually, anyways.
Oh yeah, it's always
All
that
right.
way.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SHC Extra, the Sabres Hockey Central podcast. Yes, we officially have a name. I am your host, Ryan Wolf, joined by my co-host, Brayton Wilson. Sir,
Hi.
it has been a very, 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 very long time since we podcasted. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing very well. Getting anxious.
It's great because it's the last weekend of September. The Buffalo Sabres are right around the corner. Now, before we get started this afternoon, I should say, first of all, I am at Wolf SHC on Twitter, Wolf with an E. Brayton is at BJ Wilson SHC. You can like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/Sabres Hockey Central. And always remember to check out the website, SabresHockeyCentral.com. As I mentioned, the season is right around the corner, so new content will be going up very, very shortly. Now, today, got a few things we'd like to talk about. First of all, since we did not do podcast during the off season, we get to talk about the off-season changes that came to the First Niagara Center. Now, just to highlight for you really quick, gone are Christian Ehrhoff and Ville Leno, who both were bought out with the compliance buyouts. Both Buffalo Sabres buyouts were used this off-season. Last year you can use them, so you might as well get them both out of the way. And coming to Buffalo, Brian Gionta, the ex-captain of the Montreal Canadiens, ex-Buffalo Sabre Matt Moulson, who was traded to Minnesota during the season and ended up re-signing in Buffalo to a nice lucrative contract. Josh Georges, who turned down the Toronto Maple Leafs in a trade to be traded to Buffalo. And the second overall draft pick, Sam Reinhart. Now, out of that list, Brayton, who really strikes you as a very exciting ad this offseason?
Well, I personally love the ad of Matt Moulson bringing him back. That's going to be your offense there. He's going to be the guy that gets to the net, gets in front of the net, cashes in on those loose rebounds. He's also got some more offensive skill. You can put him out there for the shootouts. You can, it's just he's going to be the guy that you can rely on to put the puck in the net, and he plays 100% of the time, 100% of the games. I also like the addition of Brian Gionta because it brings the veteran leadership. We don't know yet, but he might be captain of this team coming up within the next coming days. But and Gionta can bring some goal scoring as well. He can bring some offensive play. So I really like both those additions that the Sabres made.
The Josh Georges one is interesting because obviously the Buffalo Sabres want to get better on defense, but this is a move that nobody saw coming.
Right.
I mean, we were sitting here and we heard that Josh Georges had turned down a trade to Toronto on Twitter, and then we all started to laugh because obviously whenever something does not go Toronto's way, which is usually most of the time, we get a good laugh out of it. But then we see Twitter say that Josh Georges is a Buffalo Sabre, and we go, wait, what? That doesn't happen. Stuff
No.
doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, I know that was my reaction too. I kind of looked at Twitter and I'm like, whoa, okay.
The
Cool.
exciting part about it. The exciting part about it is he is looking like he'll be playing with Tyler Myers.
Right.
And they both have a little bit of a history with each other. They both played in Kelowna, and they're apparently friends in the offseason or acquaintances at least. But the one guy Georgia said he wanted to be with was Tyler Myers, which could be big because when he played in Montreal, he was a good defender.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if anything, we need the Buffalo Sabres to bring somebody in that can kind of calm Tyler Myers down and bring the best back out of him because he's still turning that corner. He's still young. We know that. We've discussed this many times in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But he's at the point now where it seems like he needs a kick in the ass, if you will, and Josh Georges may bring that for him.
Right, and Josh Georges, when he was in Montreal, I mean, when he was healthy, he played with PK Subban quite often. And look how much PK Subban has matured.
And PK Subban is pretty good at hockey.
Yeah, pretty good. So,
about Georges.
Yeah. So I mean, if Josh Georges can do the same thing with Tyler Myers and solidify solidify that defensive core and everything like that, I think that Georges will be a great addition, and he's the type of guy where he can tell Tyler Myers, hey, go on the rush. I've got this back here. If there's a 2-on-1, I know what I'm doing. So,
And I agree.
so
I was
yeah,
gonna say, I agree with you on Gianta and Molson. Gianta is very important because if nothing, if not for goal scoring, because we know, like you said, we know he's gonna score goals. Unless he forgets how to play hockey, he'll score goals. But I think Gianta was brought here solely for leadership.
yeah,
Obviously, yes, everyone, tweet at me, tell me I'm stupid because I say leadership is why they brought him here. But you're going to look at it, and there's going to be a ton of young kids that need to know and need to learn how to play the game on the ice and how to play the game off the ice. And if there's anybody I would want teaching the future Buffalo Sabres how to do that, it would be Brian Gianta.
right.
And same goes with Matt Molson. You and I both have saw last year when we were in the locker room that Matt Molson really commands that locker room, and the players really rally around him, and that's very important when you've got a young team looking for a direction.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the team's young, yes, but not only are they young, they're really looking for some sort of identity. And guys like Brian Gianta, guys like Matt Molson will help this team find their identity, and they may not be as bad as they were last year. And that, in the long run, that's the positive.
Right. Anything to avoid what happened last year would just be a huge upgrade over huge upgrade.
Now, looking at Sam Reinhart, because that's the one guy you or I neither of us mentioned, it's a great addition. I mean, whenever you can get a just amazing talent like Sam Reinhart in the draft, you did a pretty good job. I mean, that's what makes the losing worth it. You don't like to lose during the season, but when you get Sam Reinhart in the draft, it kind of is a painkiller, if you will,
Right.
for your terrible season. Now, I'm going to leave you with a bit of a teaser here because I don't want you to tell me now. But coming up later in the podcast, we are going to discuss whether or not we believe Sam Reinhart should make the team and why.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to talk about the commitment to the rebuild. The Buffalo Sabres obviously have cleaned the house a little bit, gotten rid of some veterans that we assumed, like we all figured, absolutely. If you told me Christian Ehrhoff was going to be gone, probably would have told you you're nuts. But now looking at it, it makes all the sense. The kids are being given shots, that's for sure. Even if they know they're heading back, like Mikhail Grigorenko is getting a good shot. I mean, granted, he's been on the fourth line, but he's getting a shot, getting 10, 11 minutes a game in preseason. But he knows he'll probably end up in Rochester, but he's just trying to use this to build on it and make himself better because of it. Also, it's very easy to see that a rebuild is happening because there are a strong commitment to veteran bodies, as we mentioned in the last segment. You can tell there's going to be a handful of wily NHL veterans, as they're called, to help this team out with the kids and with the identity, with the direction. Where do you think this team's headed in the next season?
Well, they're going to be better than last year. I'll tell you that much. I think the veteran leadership that they just brought in is going to help them out immensely. The young guys are they're going to be very, very happy that they've got this leadership to look up to, and to when they got a question about something or they want to get to know something else, they got people that they can ask and be like, hey, what do I do in this situation? What do I do here? What do I do here? And then they can look to the leaders to kind of guide them. And I think that's important. Besides that, I don't think they're going to be out of the bottom three. I don't think they're going to have a significant improvement, but they're going to they're going to be more watchable this year for sure.
Well, I mean, the thing about the Buffalo Sabres this season is even if they win 10 more games or get 10 more points, they're still going to be in the basement. I mean, that's the crazy thing about how bad last year was, and you'll realize that this year. You can't realize how bad a hockey team is or how bad anything is until you put it into context.
Right.
So when last year's team is put into context, you're going to see fairly quickly that we watched some terrible hockey.
Right.
I mean, there's no feasible way I can imagine the Sabres scoring less goals than they did last year, because obviously they set the NHL record for least amount of goals in a season.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't imagine that'll happen. Plus, with all the bodies they brought in, excuse me, with all the new bodies they brought in, plus the kids have another year under their belt. I mean, because you look at guys like Zemgus Girgensons, he'll probably, you have to assume he's going to score more. You'd like to see more scoring, even though Tyler Ennis and Cody Hodgson had 20 goals last season. You're probably going to want to see more scoring from them.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, you're going to want to see more scoring from Drew Stafford, that's for sure. And being a career year, he may have that extra push to score 20 goals or so. So there's going to be more scoring this year. More scoring may not necessarily lead to more winning, but like you said, it will be watchable. It will be fun because, again, as we said last year a ton of times, if there is a direction you can see in this team, it won't be hard to watch, because you'll say, okay, yeah, it's not good now, but we know where this is headed. Right. And that's all that matters.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I kind of lost you there for a second, but it's okay. Yeah. It's interesting to see how things develop quickly, because I don't necessarily know. I mean, we saw how Michael Neuwirth played last night. I mean, it's preseason, but he was not very good.
No.
It seems like right now it's Enroth's team or Enroth's job to lose in goal. The top line is most likely going to be Molson, Ennis, and Stafford. Second line will feature Gianta.
And Hodgson.
And Hodgson, yeah, sorry, I just went blank there for a second.
We don't know who the center will be at this point.
Correct. It could be Girgensons, it could be Sam Reinhart. We don't know. This is why the training camp is so fun. They've cut a handful of guys, all guys that we thought were headed to Rochester or juniors, but the one name that popped out to me was Luke Adam last night, was put on waivers. We'll find out later this afternoon if anybody claimed him. But quickly, for me, it seems as if Luke Adam, his days are not even numbered anymore for this organization. His time may be done unless he shows that he can score in the NHL, which he's not getting the shot from Buffalo. So
no,
he may end up in Rochester again and just playing his tail off in Rochester and hopefully getting a shot. But
right.
How many times can you give a guy a chance before you just say, hey, it might not be for you? Here in Buffalo, it might not be for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought that during the offseason when Tim Murray re-signed him, I just didn't like the idea of re-signing him. But, I mean, you got to get to the cap floor. That's what Tim Murray's basically policy was this year. So, yeah, Luke Adam I can't see him being in the NHL anymore. You know, that one year he started off real hot, but I mean he was playing between Jason Pominville and Thomas Vanek. When you play between two guys like that, you're going to put up some production. And they've tried putting him with other people. They've tried giving him the chances. They gave him probably they've given him every chance they can give him, and he just can't prove it to anybody that he's going to be an NHL talent at all.
Well, and obviously, when he started off the season so hot, ended up at the All-Star game, and we don't know what happened between him and Lindy Ruff, whether he just stopped showing good hockey tendencies or whatever happened, but something happened between him and Lindy Ruff, and ever since then, his Buffalo Sabres career has just not been the same.
No.
It's just weird because he showed so much promise on that first line, and many were coining him to be a top six player for a while, and then just disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year he had a great season in Rochester, earned the opportunity that he got, but when he came up, nothing was there.
Nothing.
Excuse me.
Nothing at all.
I went to go talk and just yawned. What is my problem? This is the exciting part about having a podcast back too, is that we can just go from topic to topic and randomly just discuss whatever we feel like it, because that's what a podcast is for. Right. Believe me, I know we're back. Because I already feel like I've been lost rambling in here a few times. So we are back. Podcast is back, everybody. We'll be better next time, I promise.
You got it.
But moving on now to season predictions. We're going to look at a few topics and questions that may be on the mind of Buffalo Sabres fans this season. First off, what to do with Sam Reinhart? I want to hear your take on this one.
Well, so far in the preseason, I haven't seen anything spectacular. Sam Reinhart. The thing that I like, though, is he's getting used to the NHL pace very quickly. The first game or two, he looked like he was, he got off to a really slow start. Then he started getting used to the pace. And last night, it looked like he was doing relatively all right. He was winning some key faceoffs. He just looks a lot more comfortable out there on the ice. And I just think that Tim Murray's probably going to give him the 10 games that you can get before you have to burn in a year on your entry deal, and I think he's going to go back to Kootenay, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I mean, with looking at the barring a catastrophic injury to somebody, I don't think he's going to stay just because the numbers crunch. Let alone if he's ready or not. The numbers of who's in Buffalo and who the Sabres have, it just doesn't make sense to keep him and kind of waste a season toiling on the third or fourth line. Because, I mean, we all know he'd probably end up on the fourth line if he was in Buffalo because that's just how things work around here.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense, but what does make sense these days?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he gets the tryout. I mean, he'll probably score a goal or two, flash some promise, get everybody all excited. And then when Tim Murray sends him down, everybody can complain and say Tim Murray's an idiot, doesn't know what he's doing. But it's probably for the best if Sam Reinhart just goes and plays in Kootenay and gets another season there.
Right, and if we learn from anything of our past mistakes with Mikhail Grigorenko, then everybody would say, yeah, just send him back to juniors. We don't want to push him or anything like that, unless he puts up first 10 games like Sean Monahan did last year for the Calgary Flames. Monahan had like 5 goals and 6 assists or something like that, and Calgary was just like, no, you're staying in the NHL.
Exactly. I mean, unless he blows the doors off the place,
right?
You can't expect him to stay. Looking at a bigger name on the Buffalo Sabres, Drew Stafford, who is a potential captain on this team. Many thought he would be the captain before Brian Giunta was signed here. Mm-hmm. Will Drew Stafford last with the Buffalo Sabres past the trade deadline? As we mentioned, he has one season, this coming up season, left on his deal with the Buffalo Sabres. He's an offensive scoring threat, believe it or not. If you look at his stats, he scores. I think he averages around 17 goals a season or something like that. So that is big in the NHL. Mm-hmm. Do you think Drew Stafford gets traded, or will he remain a Buffalo Sabre after the deadline?
I think Tim Murray will try and trade Drew Stafford, absolutely. Depending on what the Sabres get back in value, in my opinion, I think Drew Stafford could easily get a second round pick in this year's draft. But again, some teams may, if depending on how he performs this year, he could have one of those years in his one contract year where he scores 6 hat tricks in 1 year, or he could have a season where he only scores 10 goals for the year. So I think depending on what Tim Murray wants and depending on what other teams are willing to give up is how Drew Stafford is going to be determined. I think that, in my opinion, yes, I think Drew Stafford is going to get traded by the trade deadline. And he will not be a Buffalo Sabre. I don't even think he'll be named captain of the team.
I think my best guess is that Drew Stafford is Matt Moulson. Drew Stafford will come out. He will dominate on the first line. He will make everybody look good. He'll make himself look good. He'll make the franchise look good. And then somebody will come calling saying, hey, we can't afford the A-plus player. Give us the A-minus player in Drew Stafford, or give us the B-plus player in Drew Stafford, whatever you want to say. I think he'll get traded, and I think in the offseason, the Buffalo Sabres will give him a deal like Matt Moulson. They'll say, okay, we know you want to be a part of this. Help us, help you, help us. We'll trade you at the deadline, and we'll get pieces back in return, and then we will give you an offer you can't refuse in the offseason. There's nothing wrong with that. That's exactly what happened with Matt Moulson. We know that. And I think that would make the most sense to me, because if you've got an asset there's no need to keep that asset if you can get good pieces for him. I mean, if someone calls and offers you garbage for Drew, don't get rid of him.
Yeah,
But if
exactly.
someone calls and offers you a prospect and a good pick, and it's a good prospect, take it.
Yeah, what I would value Drew Stafford at right now is I'd value him as a second round pick to a contending team, so late second round, maybe even an early third round. I mean, I don't know, depending on which team wants him, and then a prospect that's a couple of years away from development to any child level, but that's probably where I'd put him at right now. Maybe a little more or less, but
I mean, but you look at what Tim Murray has done, and you just look at the
right.
Amex roster this season, and you see how many names are in Rochester now. How many prospects are ready to make the jump to the AHL and to start learning the professional game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season. I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it's going to be fun to watch this season because of deals like the one that we're discussing.
Right.
You go out, you get a B level, low A, high B prospect. You throw them in Rochester and you see what happens. And those are the guys that usually are the important ones on the team, because while you have your goal scorers, your Tyler Ennis's, your Matt Molson's and stuff like that, you need guys in the second, third line that can score goals, and those are usually the guys that you get in these throwaway deals, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, speaking of that, the one guy that I'm very excited about, just to kind of, it's a podcast, we can do whatever we want, okay? It's our podcast, we can do what we want. The one guy I'm excited to watch this season in Rochester will be William Carrier.
Yes. I agree.
When he came over in the CVOT Ryan Miller deal, if you don't remember, but his first full season with the organization, I'm interested to see what he can do, how he's utilized, and just if he'll be a valuable scorer, because I'll tell you what, if he ends up being anything good, the Buffalo Sabres then will have completely won that deal.
Right.
And at this point in time, I mean, it's kind of selfish to say you have to win every deal, but when it comes down to it and you're trying to rebuild a franchise, you want to win almost every deal, or try to win every deal.
Right.
It puts you ahead and a lot quicker.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying you go draft and you can't win every draft pick. I get you, but if you're hitting on every 1 of 10, you're going to rebuild a lot slower than if you hit on every 4 or 5 of 10.
Right. Yeah, and Carrier is in no way a goal scorer, but he can produce some points. Last year, put up 24 points in 27 games with Drummondville after he got traded from Cape Breton. And last year in Cape Breton, he played 39 games and had 41 points. So in the QMJHL, he was averaging about a point a game. Let's go with that. But yeah, what I like about Carrier is he plays really well. He's got a lot of energy. He's got good speed on the wing. Plays really well along the boards. And he's a guy that can put up some points for you. So I think that Murray did his homework very well with Carrier. I think that he's going to play very well in Rochester. I don't think he's going to get called up at all this year, but he's going to take this year to develop in Rochester, and I think that'll help him out immensely.
Well, as we've seen, a season in Rochester can do wonders for a prospect's development. I mean, that's kind of, again, going off on another tangent. Mikhail Grigorenko. Now, I know this is a very touchy subject. We can talk about this for days. I just want to say really quick, if he spends most of his season in Rochester, yes, he may get a look in Buffalo later in the season, or if an injury happens, he may get a look. But don't be surprised if he spends more than 75% of his season in Rochester. Because that's what he needs for his development. He needs to go down to Rochester, and he needs to prove not only to the Sabres and to everybody else, but to himself, first and foremost, that he can dominate on this level.
Right.
If he's in Rochester and scores 20 goals, I would be very, very scared if I was any opponent of the Buffalo Sabres and saw a very confident Mikhail Grigorenko on the other side of the puck. Now, I want to ask you kind of an open-ended question here.
Okay.
Very simple one, but very open-ended. Who do you believe will lead the Buffalo Sabres in goals scored next season?
I gotta go with Matt Molson. Either Matt Molson or Tyler Ennis. Ennis probably had his best career year last year. Um, I think that going to play center on that top line for the whole year unless something happens where he has to move to wing. Um, but I think between Matt Molson and Tyler Ennis, both those guys will feed off of each other, and I think that one of those two will have the top goals. And if I had to pick anybody, I'd probably pick Matt Molson over Tyler Ennis.
I'm gonna go with Tyler Ennis. I know Molson's gonna score goals. That's what he does. Hodgson, I would hope. I mean, for Cody Hodgson, if he can score 20 goals again, that's huge on the second line. But I really hope that Tyler Ennis takes that next step after scoring 20 goals. Now that he's playing with Stafford and Molson all the time, I really want to see if Ennis can score 25 goals, and I think he can.
I think he can as well.
And I think next year Ennis scores 25 at least, and leads the Sabres because again he scored over 20 last year, and had, as we mentioned, the worst team in the history of the Buffalo Sabres. Had barely any support, all that stuff. Now he's got Molson and Stafford to solidify that top line, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That's for sure. Even if that's the thing about it too, is that people will say, well, the Sabres are doing it wrong because they're winning, and they're not helping themselves getting Connor McDavid or Jack Eichel. But then again, you have to remember, it's going to be very important for this team to do something. And if they finish third or fourth, I mean, yeah, it'll be missing out, but you've got to do something somewhere. And if the first line's doing good, I guess I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but I was going to say if the first line's doing good, that's all that really matters to me. And I think Tyler Ennis is going to lead the charge of the season.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I got distracted. I've got soccer on the TV, and a guy just scored a phenomenal goal, and I was just kind of in awe of what just happened. Now, for an overall team prediction, I want to get a pick from you. Where do you think the Sabres end up this season?
Well, I sort of panned it out, as you know, for the whole season. I think that the Sabres are going to be a 7 more win team.
14 more points.
Yep, 14 more points. Exactly, that's right. So, where they finished with 51 points last year, 52 points. I've got them finishing with 69 points this year.
And I think if that was this year, they would have finished second, right? That would put them in second place, or second to last.
I do believe so. I think that Florida had 67 points last year.
That seems about right.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been so long.
We're just too lazy to go look it up. It's a Saturday morning. Come on now. It's still really early.
I'm on it. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I think the Buffalo Sabres end up winning 5, 6, 7, 8 more games. But the thing about it is, again, and I hate to sit here and try to put a bow on the season before it's over, before it's even started. But if you finish in the top 2 for the draft, that's probably best for the organization because McDavid is the guy you want. If you can't get him, Jack Eichel is the guy you want.
Right. Florida finished with 66 points.
Okay.
And then Edmonton finished with 67.
So Buffalo would have finished third last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is still not bad.
But I think Edmonton's going to be better. I think Florida's going to be better. I mean, there's going to be a handful of teams that are going to be worse, but I don't necessarily think the Sabres are going to be as good as the bad teams. So that could be a positive.
Right.
Like I said, you're gonna go into the season and you're gonna think to yourself, this team sucks. Yes, the team does suck, obviously. But the exciting part about it is, ladies and gentlemen, there is a direction. There is a means to the end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to wait it out, unfortunately. If you let me look at baseball for a second, if you are patient enough, if you wait for it, it will come. I mean, just look at the Kansas City Royals. They just clinched their first playoff berth since 1985.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't take that.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but we can wait.
Yeah, and last year the Pirates clinched their first playoff spot in 17 years. So
it pays off to be patient.
Exactly.
Beer is delicious, so if you're mad at hockey, you just drink a lot of beer, and then life goes on.
Yep, drink a lot of beer this year until June, and then you can start, really getting
Then we
wild with the draft talks.
then we'll do all this all over again, and we'll sound just as miserable as we did last time. Now, with you, Brayton, I know as you mentioned, you did do a full NHL outlook.
Yes.
Who do you have in the playoffs this year, and who do you have in and winning the Stanley Cup?
Well, it's a little surprising because the West really hasn't changed all that much. The only team that I took out of the West to not make the playoffs and then insert them with another team is in the Pacific Division. I've got San Jose not making the playoffs this year and Vancouver making the playoffs this year. I think San Jose in the middle of the season is just I have this feeling that they're just going to implode. I think that one of the top two guys, maybe even both of the top two guys with Marlowe or Thornton is going to get traded. I think that they'll miss the playoffs barely. It'll be probably one of the last nights of the year that they fall through and miss. And then Vancouver, I think that yes, even though Ryan Miller is in his 30s and everything like that, I still think he brings them stability in net. I think that they're going to be a young team this year. There's guys like Bo Horvat and Hunter Shinkaruk that could make the team. They got better Radim Verbata, who will be a nice addition to the team. And Vancouver, honestly, they still got a lot of spunk, and their defense, even though they just got rid of Jason Garrison and everything, I still think they'll do just fine. I think that they'll be in that battle with San Jose all year. They'll make the playoffs by a point over San Jose. And then in the West, staying with the West, I think that LA and Chicago are clearly the two best teams. They're still going to be the two best teams. Anaheim got better with adding Kessler. However, I think that it's going to be between Chicago and LA again. I think Chicago gets back to the Stanley Cup Finals again. Third time in, 5 years that they've been in the Cup Finals if it all works out.
Something, yeah.
The Eastern Conference, yeah. The Eastern Conference, the only change that I have is that the Detroit Red Wings are going to miss the playoffs for the first time in 23 years, I believe. So I think they're going to miss. I think that, besides the upcoming talents of Gustav Nyquist, Thomas Yurko, and some of those guys, I think they're just too young and then yet again too old. They don't have really that happy medium of players. I mean, yes, they're still going to get production from guys like Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk. Kind of hurts them that Datsyuk got hurt with that shoulder injury. He's out 4 weeks, but I think they just barely missed the playoffs, just like San Jose does. And the team that is going to replace them in the wild card is, I think, the New Jersey Devils. I think the Devils are going to have a sense of pride this year. Corey Snyder, I think, is going to have a breakout year in net. They got guys like Jaromir Jagr, who's playing his last year. He's going to be retiring after this year. Huh?
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. But, who knows with Jagr at this point. But I think that the Devils are going to make the playoffs just squeak in. And the top two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals may surprise some people, but I pan it out, and this is what I think is going to happen. I think that the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference. Ben Bishop's going to have a good year. The offense for Tampa Bay got improved. Their defense got improved. Their goaltending got improved as well. Instead of having Anders Lindback as their backup goaltender, they've got getting a Bakov who can still play. Not only that, but they've also got Andrei Vasilevsky, who they drafted in 2012 with the 19th pick in the draft. He's over playing in North America. He's going to be playing with the Syracuse Crunch. So I think that the top two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's going to be Tampa Bay, and I have a wild card team as my other team. It's going to be the Philadelphia Flyers. I think for some reason they're going to have a stellar year. They play Pittsburgh in the first round. I can see them beating Pittsburgh. As of late, they've had Pittsburgh's number. Then in the second round, they'd face the New York Rangers, and again, I think they would give New York a good run for their money. And but I don't think the Flyers are going to make the Stanley Cup Finals. I think it's going to be Tampa Bay and Chicago in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think Chicago is going to win.
Interesting. I do like that. I mean, I think you're spot on with Tampa Bay. If nothing else, the expectations are very high for them
Right.
because I mean, I know Jonathan Drouin just got hurt, but the one name to watch in Tampa Bay, I've been beating this drum since early last season when he got sent back. Jonathan Drouin is going to be a fantastic hockey player.
Hmm.
They re-signed Ryan Callahan. They've got a healthy Steven Stamkos. I mean,
They
they've got
signed Brian Boyle as their fourth line
yep.
center. They signed Anton Strom. I mean, they basically took everybody from the New York Rangers that was available and signed them.
Hey, if it works, and they've got a very good team down there in Tampa Bay. Quietly, they've got a great team, and it's going to be
Right.
fun to watch them.
Right, exactly. And they also got young guys like Nikita Kucherov, who played with Grigorenko for a while in
Well, the
Quebec.
thing is, you've got to load up on
Right,
in the Eastern Conference side of things. You have to load up because the Western Conference is so damn good.
right, exactly.
So
And
we're bound to get a team one of these years that is just insanely good in the Eastern Conference, but then hits the Western Conference and just collapses because they are good but not good enough.
right,
And maybe that's the year. Maybe this year is the year where Tampa's going to be that powerhouse in the East that barely anybody can touch.
hmm
And then once they face the Western Conference team in the Cup Finals, they just get trounced. You know?
yeah. And I mean, I've got Tampa Bay being, I think, 2 points better than Boston this year. Boston's getting old. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that they're going to have not so much of a down year, but I mean, they're definitely going to decline quite a bit. And Montreal's going to be right up there too. Montreal's only getting better, and Boston's slowly but surely starting to slow down. So
They're
I think
regressing
that
to the mean, if you will.
right, exactly. Zdeno Chara can't stay. He can't stay healthy for long. He's getting old. He's 30. I think he's 38 now.
That's
I was talking with somebody when I went to training camp last week. I was talking with them, and we were talking about the Boston Bruins and talking about how Zdeno Chara and Tyler Myers, you can almost kind of compare them because, in the first years of Zdeno Chara's career, he looked clumsy. He looked like, who's this kid, 6'8" kid who's, playing. He's never going to make it. And then all of a sudden, somebody got a hold of him in Ottawa, and he became a superstar. And that's what people are hoping with Tyler Myers is somebody gets a hold of Tyler Myers and just makes him a superstar here in Buffalo. And we were talking, and it's just amazed us how already Chara's up in his upper 30s.
That's why we always say you never give up on young defensemen until you have tried everything you possibly can, because you might look like a fool.
That's the perfect example. And the Islanders gave up on him, traded him to Ottawa, and then Ottawa got a hold of him, and he became a stud. And then Boston signed him to a mega contract.
Yep. It's crazy how that stuff works out, man. But it's hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be crazy because if it wasn't crazy, it wouldn't be hockey.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But hey, I think we hit everything today. I mean, it's a great return to the SHC Sabres Hockey Central Extra Podcast. A lot of fun. Thank you for joining us today.
Do you want to hear where I think that St. Louis and New York are going to finish too? Because
Please,
those are the.
Hey, and if you forget, ladies and gentlemen, before I did cut Brayton off because I was going to say this. Buffalo Sabres on the first round draft picks of the Islanders and Blues, so it's probably pretty important to hear the prediction on those.
Right. I got the Blues finishing 21st in the league. They'll make the playoffs, but lose in the first round again. I got them losing to Dallas. Watch out for Dallas this year. My professor at college, he told me, "Oh, come on, you just gotta love you gotta crush for Lindy Ruff." And I was like, no, I think they're going to do well this year. They got Jason Spezza now.
Yeah, you're gonna if you're good and you get Jason Spezza, you're gonna get a lot better.
Yeah, and you got Tyler Seguin, who had a tremendous year last year. Their defense could use some improvements, but you know what? If Kari Lehtinen puts up a year like he did last year, I think Dallas is going to be just fine. So the Blues are going to finish in 21st, and the Islanders. I think the Islanders are going to have a better year. However, they just will miss out on some teams that are just points ahead of them, 1 point, 2 points. I got the Islanders finishing 6th. Not going from number 1 to 30, what I was talking about. So if the Sabres were drafting with the Islanders pick, they'd have the 6th pick in the draft, and then the Sabres would have the 21st pick from the Blues.
So it's going to be a very good year in terms of development for the Buffalo Sabres' future, because
Right.
the three first-round picks in this deep of a draft, no matter where they are, it's going to be phenomenal. So
Exactly, yeah, and the draft class this year is right now panning out to be phenomenal.
we've got a
Absolutely
fun year,
phenomenal.
we've got a fun year ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen. Hockey may not be the best, but we'll still be here with your latest breaking Buffalo Sabres news at SabresHockeyCentral.com, Facebook.com/SabresHockeyCentral. Make sure you like the Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at SHC.com, all spelled out. I'm Ryan Wolf at WolfSHC on Twitter. Braden is at BJWilsonSHC. It's been a lot of fun, man. Good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back as well. Yeah, I
And
hear you.
We will be back sometime soon. Thank you again for listening, everybody, and have a good day. And for the first time in a long time, let's go Buffalo.